Sound matters. Be heard. Welcome to the podcast where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes tips to make your own show sound truly spectacular. This is Podtastic Audio.
Hey, what is happening? How are you doing today? Most importantly, how is your podcast coming along? Do you even have a podcast? Or maybe you're just thinking about starting a podcast? Don't you worry, we got you covered over here at Podtastic Audio. I am Chris, and I am from the original Chris and Christine Show podcast. You can find out every single thing you want to know about that show on a little website, which I created by hand, got my hands dirty, got the power tools out, and I created a website all from scratch, not knowing a single thing on how to build websites, but I pulled it off at chrisandchristineshow.com, and a link to that will be in the show notes of this episode. But it's chrisandchristineshow.com. No matter how you spell it, you'll get there. And yeah, so today on Podtastic Audio, I just thought of something over the weekend, and I'm going to share it with you on how that possibly you can use this idea, this concept, to perhaps make a better sounding podcast for your audience. What is that? Well, stick around and find out. But before we get into all that fun stuff, I want to say thank you for tuning in this week. And also thank you so much if you have submitted your podcast for me to review it. You always can send it on over to podtasticaudio@gmail.com. Send me your podcast and I will give you a honest review of your show. Now, I'm mostly focusing on audio and audio quality and production quality of your show. As far as your deep content and your intellectual conversations you might be having with your guests or with your friends, or a deep dive into some obscure movie that I've never heard of, listen, I wouldn't know what that's about. So basically, when I do review your show, I'm mainly focusing on how does it sound, the way you present your content, and is it entertaining? Do you entertain me? And is it educational? That's really what you want to do with a podcast, is make it somewhat entertaining and also somewhat educational. You see, your podcast, you can't survive on mere information alone. You really have to have some kind of entertainment, something that has that kind of a wow factor to go along with the content itself. Now, content for content's sake is great, but here we live in a very digital world where easily I can Google anything I want about anything and have the basic ideas at my fingertips within a few seconds, all via the old interweb. So to make your show stand out versus just the straight up content alone, like you can't just read a dictionary or encyclopedia. Are those still a thing? Read an encyclopedia right into a microphone and just expect that thing to be the dazzle everybody, to be the wow factor of a podcast. Everybody podcasts about whatever they want to podcast, and you can podcast however you want. You have a show about wrestling, go right ahead. You have a show about golf, go right ahead. You have a show about snails and snail races, if that even is a thing, I don't even know. You go right ahead. But more than just the facts of what happened or what you're going to talk about, you have to sprinkle in a little enthusiasm, a little energy. Because the one thing that will set your podcast apart from, say, somebody else's podcast, that's you. You are going to be different than the next guy saying the exact same thing. A lot of podcasts that have asked for me to give them an honest review of their show, a lot of them have been these movie style of podcasts, whether it's like the movie review show or some kind of pop culture movie review shows, or movies we liked in the past, or movies we want to watch, and just movie in general type of stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. There's lots of these kind of shows out there, and that's the problem. There's a lot of these shows out there, and for the most part, they start to all kind of sound identically the same. Like, I cannot tell you which one is which. They'll talk about a movie, they'll run over all the plot points of the movie, then they'll give it some kind of ranking or rating at the end, whether they liked it or what they didn't like about it. And it's usually kind of the same thing. I mean, I know you have your different opinions and your different thoughts, but the actual content itself is the movie, which Maybe if it's a very popular movie, a lot of different shows are discussing. Like right now, over the weekend, I just saw the new Little Mermaid movie because it just opened up this weekend. I saw it and it was good. I liked it, but I'm not doing a podcast about it. I'm sure a lot of people are, and they're giving their thoughts and their opinions. Nothing wrong with that. You can totally do that. But if you want your show to stand out and not sound exactly like everybody else's show, you got to do something different. You got to be spectacular. I don't know what that is exactly for your show, but all I'm saying is that think different, be different. Don't do the exact same thing that 100 other people are doing, because the listener, when they go to look for a podcast about that movie and 5,000 of them show up that reviewed that movie over the weekend, you just gotta like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just pick the one you want. Or you look at ones that are doing things a little differently and you say, that might be the show I want to check out. Now, I know with podcasting, it's a little different than, say, YouTube. With YouTube, all of the videos and all of the video graphics for whatever that video is right in front of you. And basically, that's why everybody who does YouTube tries to make the front page graphic, the icon image that you click on, to be really spectacular with lots of cool graphics and lettering. And then they even might try to do a little bit of trickery and say things like, oh, I just lost $1 million in the title. And really just a big tease clickbait to get you to press play on that video. So basically the point is this: try to make your show sound different and be different than all the other cookie cutter shows out there. And when it comes to the cookie cutter shows, I'm talking about the Zoom chat shows. I like to call them the chatcast shows, but there's one level even further than that, and that is called the hot mess chatcast show. Now, what is a hot mess chatcast show? Somebody asked me over the weekend. Well, it's basically like this. You and your buddies get on, whether it's Zoom, StreamYard, whatever tool you have, or maybe you're all in the same room, who knows? And you just kind of like start talking, and you really have no direction on where this podcast is even going. It's something like, oh, look, we're recording. Oh my goodness, we're recording now? Oh, hey, Joe, we're recording? Oh, look, I think it's working. Oh, hey, Joe, do you know what we're going to talk about? I don't know. Hey, what's that thing on your hair? It looks crazy, man. Hey, what shirt is that? Why are your nails painted that way? Oh, hey, is it recording? Hey, Mom, can you make us some food? I'm hungry. Hey, by the way, hey, we're on the phone right now. Hey, Mom, every Wednesday we do this podcast. Why are you in here? Why are you bothering us? Hey, go find something to do with Timmy. And why is your cat in here? Hey, your cat looks funny. Hey, does your cat always eat that stuff? Okay, that is not a podcast. That is a hot mess chatcast, and a lot of podcasters are doing that. It's quite popular for some reason, probably because it's super easy, it's super convenient, and I think the downside, when you get a lot of people that know each other on a Zoom call, for example, let's say Zoom is the platform we're talking about today. So unfortunately, the sad truth behind a lot of independent or indie podcasters is that we are not broadcasters. So we do not have this broadcast mentality. So we have everybody on the Zoom chat talking about the stuff, whether even if you narrow it down into a particular topic or niche, and you narrow it down, you're all talking about something. A lot of independent podcasters don't have the broadcast brain. They don't think this thing we're talking about right now is being potentially heard by hundreds of listeners out there in the universe, maybe even thousands. You don't even know how big your show can really get. So when they do the Zoom chat, I've noticed from listening to a lot of different podcasts, it's that it's all generic, like it's a Zoom conversation. They treat the podcast recording like it's just a regular phone call conversation with your buddies, which is great and all, but there's no energy. There's no enthusiasm. And you don't even think about possibly that this thing can be heard by lots of other people out there. So when I was giving out some advice to some of the podcasts over the weekend, it got me thinking that this is really a problem when it comes to independent podcasts. Now, here is one of the tricks that I would suggest using whenever you're doing a solo podcast or whenever you're doing a group podcast, whether it's on Zoom or all together. This one technique might help you be a better presenter when it comes to creating your podcast. Now, here, it's very, very simple thing we all can do. And that is this. When you create your podcast and you're recording it, just imagine. Now, this might be takes a little imagination. I know some people have a very, very bad imagination, but bear with me here. Try to get a little imagination and just imagine that you're doing your podcast, whether it's you and all your friends. You're doing it on top of a stage in the middle of a theater auditorium, and there's about 100 people out there in the audience watching you and watching your every move live in real time. Now, if you can imagine that you're on a stage, you're going to actually present yourself a little differently than you would if you think you're having a private one-on-one conversation with you and your guest or you and your buddy. We talk a little differently when we know there's a crowd watching us. You see, when it's just you, it's personal, it's kind of flat talk. But when you have a stage and you are on that stage, you present yourself a little differently. You project a little louder. You have a little more enthusiasm behind everything you say. It actually hits more when you're talking to a crowd of people. Now, you don't have to point the crowd out. You don't have to say, look at you or all these people. You don't have to interact with the crowd. Just imagine this crowd is actually here physically watching you and everything you do live in real time. Now you might be thinking, hey, Chris, you know what we do? We do this already. We already have our live streaming we use. We use StreamYard, and we live stream every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern time, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get that. How many people actually watch that live? Okay, not that many. Maybe a few, maybe even 10, maybe even 20 if you're really lucky. But I guarantee you're going to have more people actually listening to the podcast later. Check your downloads if you don't believe me. I guarantee you're going to have more of those listeners come through later because not everybody is available at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night to sit there and watch your show. The DVR was invented for a reason because people want time-shifted content. They want to be able to watch things and listen to things on their time frame when they are available. And that's why I believe podcasting is so powerful and so amazing because we can create these shows when it's convenient for us, and you can listen to these shows when it's convenient for you. Same thing with YouTube. Now, there's nothing wrong with live streaming. You might actually potentially pick up brand new listeners via a live stream. You see, that's kind of the benefits of doing things like TikTok or even YouTube or YouTube Reel, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, things of that sort is really great for actually getting new listeners to your show. So if you do anything that's video related, I would try to just find the best clips, the best parts of the show, keep it short, keep it simple, and use those as a marketing tool to guide them to your podcast. Because typically a podcast is longer than a YouTube video. And the reason why is because podcast audio is long form content. It's not short form like a quick TikTok. It's long form content. And your audience really has to dedicate an hour, half an hour, whatever it is, to sit there and listen to your show. Please do not disappoint them. Give them gold. Every single podcast episode you record from here on out should be better than the previous episode, or at least that is the goal anyways, to always be improving your craft and always improving your show. Now, your very first episode, episode 1 or episode 0, some like to do a previous episode before they do the real episode, is never going to be as good as episode 100. It's just the way it is. We always get better. It's like riding a bike. When you first get on your bike, are you doing all kinds of cool tricks and things like that? No, you're just barely figuring it out. You're getting the pedals going. You're standing up. You're trying to make sure you don't fall over. You're not trying to do wheelies and jumps and jump over your buddies off the roof. You're not doing that stuff when you first get your bike. I hope you're not doing that type of stuff. It's the same thing with a podcast. When you first get going, you may not even know what any of these buttons mean. You don't know what decibels mean. You might not even know what levels things should be at. You don't even know, how to really talk into a microphone. And that's the thing too. Some of these podcasts that I reviewed, especially with the YouTube versions of their podcast, I only saw a couple microphones in any of the shots, and they were probably a good 3 feet away from the person's mouth. Now, I know you don't want to get it in the camera shot. Yeah, I get that. You don't want your microphone in the shot. But it sounded a lot of reverb. It was very echoey. Let me tell you that. There was some echo behind that. Now, I've mentioned this before, but you can use the Adobe Podcast Enhance. It's free. I will leave a link to it in the show notes of this episode. You got to sign up and it will do a fairly decent job. Now, it's not a miracle worker, but it will do a fairly decent job of removing the kind of the echo sound and maybe some of the bad audio that a lot of people do have. And I do recommend any new podcaster that has somewhat subpar audio, let's say audio coming from a phone or a webcam chat or a microphone that's clearly out of the shot of the camera because you just want it in the camera shot, you know what I'm saying? You run it through the Adobe Studio and it will somewhat fix that. In fact, I recommend if you have a guest that comes on, because most of our guests, we don't know what kind of gear they have. We don't know what kind of audio equipment they're running or using. So most of the time, you just got to deal with whatever they have, whether it's by a phone or if it's through a webcam chat or something like that. You just use that and it's not going to make it 100% perfect. It's not going to make it sound as good as a roadcaster with a, broadcast gear, but it will make it sound a lot better than your average, just basic webcam, laptop conversation. So the one takeaway from today's podcast episode is basically this. If you're doing a podcast and it's a Zoom chat or even a simple conversation with you and your friends, try to imagine that you are center stage in front of a big auditorium talking to everybody in the crowd and they're physically watching you live do this show. Now, how would you produce your show? How would you act if you are being watched on stage and you had to present in front of an entire crowd of people? You would say things a little different. You project a little differently, but most importantly, always have fun. If you're not having any fun with your podcast, then none of this even really matters. Enjoy the ride of podcasting and you keep on making your fantastic podcast. Hey, thank you once again for listening to this episode today. I really, really appreciate it. That makes me smile so much. But you know what would make me very happy is if you gave me an honest review on your favorite podcast player, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Joe Blow's House of Podcasts. I don't know which one you use. But if you could give me an honest review about the show that I've created to help you, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. And I will catch you on the next episode.